Hello, welcome back to Whiskey Wednesday. Another Wednesday, another whiskey review with me, Joe. So this week, let's review a very well-known whiskey, single malt from Scotland. It is the Glenlivet 18. Glenlivet being a Speyside distillery, owned by the huge drinks giant Pernod Ricard. Let's pour a dram. Matured in a mixture of bourbon and sherry casks. Bottled at 43%. Comes in a rather fancy box, quite nice. And Glenlivet 18 was one of the first whiskies that when I first got into the whiskey industry, I remember distinctly enjoying a lot. I thought it was kind of really interesting. I hadn't really tried a whiskey like it. It was one of the first whiskies that I tried kind of you know, a higher age statement. So it was kind of one of my first old whiskies, if you want to call it that. So I've got kind of a fond place in my heart for the Glenlivet 18. Colour-wise, again, there's probably caramel colour added to this, but it doesn't matter. It is a nice golden colour. I would obviously prefer distillers not to add caramel, but I've got a new thing now. My new kind of little slant on the whole colour thing and adding caramel colouring is, what if you are blind, say for instance. You can still enjoy whiskey, but you can't see what colour it is. So you're purely judging it on taste and smell. Yes, I know some people say they shouldn't interfere by adding stuff to whiskey, they should keep it natural, which I do agree with. But if you're blind, you can still enjoy the taste and the smell of a whiskey regardless of the colour. So that's my little controversial statement. Anyway, to the whiskey, Glenlivet 18. Glenlivet is famous. It's used a lot in the Chivas Regal whiskies. It's used a lot in Ballantines, and obviously it has a great range of single malts. So nose. Straight away I smell ginger biscuits. I smell orange. Blood orange. I smell kind of fruity barley. Now this one, you can almost smell the mash, the kind of fermentation going on. It's kind of like that soured fruits and kind of breadiness. That kind of ginger biscuit, kind of baked. Very pleasant nose. That smells probably a little bit older than the kind of 18-year-old suggests. Getting a healthy amount of kind of sweet oak, juicy sherry. But mainly it is that kind of ginger biscuits predominantly that I get. A little bit of charred oak there as well. It's one of those noses that you can't dislike that nose. It's just fruity, sweet, that kind of charred oak. Just beautiful. Beautiful nose. Okay, onto the palate. Okay. Ooh. Finish is good. Finish is really good. On the palate, it kind of slowly builds and slowly builds and slowly builds. It kind of starts off, you get a nice creaminess from that bourbon cask maturation, and then the kind of fruity sherry kicks in. So the orange comes back, the kind of honey comes a little bit back. There's that slight smokiness as well from the cask. Let's have another taste. It really builds and builds and builds. It's kind of like almost like a level of steps. Kind of builds in flavour. It kind of gradually gets more intense as it's in your mouth. It's rich. There's a lot of oak, but it's kind of sweet, juicy oak. That's kind of almost making me salivate. There's a good level of acidity there. Fresh, kind of almost nutty, kind of fruit and nut chocolate. One more taste for the finish, because I think the finish is the thing that really does it for me on this whiskey. Yeah, the finish, it really explodes. It really, really does. It kind of, it builds and builds up and builds up, and then you swallow it. And it's almost like this explosion of oak spice, of sherbet, of that ginger spice that comes through. And ginger's quite a kind of common thing with the Glenlivet whiskies and the orange as well. I think it's a fantastic whiskey, I really, really do. Highly recommended. And also, it's a really good kind of stepping stone if you've never tried kind of heavily sherried whiskies before, because this is, you know, this has got some sherry cask influence, and you can taste it. And it's a good stepping stone to go on to kind of really heavily sherried whiskies, you know, stuff like your Glendronach. It comes in around about, I think around about £55 a bottle, I think. You know, it's affordable. For me, it's an 8.5 out of 10. It'll always have a fond place in my heart for being just a really, really good drinking whiskey. I do think Glenlivet are one of the kind of solid producers in Scotland. I really do. I think their range is fantastic, especially the Nadura, which is one of my previous reviews a while back. So yeah, 8.5 out of 10 for the Glenlivet 18. Please let me know if you've tried it. I'm sure many of you have. Leave me a comment if you have. Please share the video. And I will see you next week for yet another whiskey review with me, Joe. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.